I've been able to dig up definitive photographic evidence of one of Epstein's known victims, Lisa Phillips, with an A-list celebrity who's never been previously directly tied to Epstein. There is information out there in the archives that has just been buried by time in a sea of data online, just waiting to be dug up by anyone willing to do the legwork. Hi, I'm Jamie Crawford.
And I'm Michael Bull, and this is a special emergency report from the upcoming series, The Big Club, an expanding body of work that we are developing that takes a fresh look at the macroscopic woven web that is Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Working with a new whistleblower that has given us new leads and a fresh perspective that has enabled us to glean breaking new insights that we are getting ready to share. This video is taking precedence for broadcasts now while we continue to work on the bigger story. Because of reasons you'll soon understand, the revelations in this video are time sensitive and there are people to expose now. Because justice delayed is justice denied.
Almost 6 years after his death, the public is still clamoring for the so-called client list of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, sometimes you just have to take matters into your own hands. I've been able to dig up definitive photographic evidence of one of Epstein's known victims, Lisa Phillips, with an A-list celebrity who's never been previously directly tied to Epstein. As you'll soon see, there is a full story that is much more damning than a single photograph. If you just want the name and face, then go ahead to the timestamp provided. But if you want a full account of how I put this story together, and a complete picture, including everybody whose names are tarnished by these findings, then let me walk you through it now. First, we have to talk about French modeling scout Jean-Luc Brunel, one of Epstein's closest associates. Brunel used his established position in the fashion industry to procure and traffic young models. The late Virginia Roberts Giuffre reported that Epstein told her that he had slept with over 1,000 women that Brunel brought him. Brunel was arrested in France in late 2020 and would go on to die in jail under suspicious circumstances not dissimilar from Epstein. Now, Brunel has long been known to be a shady character. As far back as 1988, 60 Minutes Australia produced an investigative report called American Girls in Paris, which documented multiple allegations of Brunel's sexual abuse towards American models in the French fashion industry. One of the interviewees in this report was Eileen Ford, founder and executive of Ford Models, one of the largest modeling agencies in the world. She is questioned about the fact that she would regularly send models from her agency to Brunel in Paris. But Ford claimed, with the benefit of plausible deniability, that she had no idea about Brunel's abuse.
We played a tape of the second girl's story of drugs and rape to Eileen Ford.
I don't know what to tell you. That's horrible.
And this is the first time you've ever heard one of these stories.
Absolutely.
Because we have talked to 5 other girls who say that they have had drugs put in their drink by Jean-Luc or Jean-Luc's friends.
I hope you're wrong. And for his sake, I hope you're wrong.
Eileen Ford says she's sure Jean-Luc has used drugs, and she even warned him about it.
I have certainly asked him never to have drugs around in front of my models.
That's all you've ever said to him?
Well, that's a pretty fair warning.
But were you ever told about this and ever raised it with him?
The drugs? You mean being doped up and put to bed?
Getting girls drugged up and into bed with him or his friend?
No.
Have girls ever come back and complained to you that he took them to parties with people who dealt in drugs?
No.
Yet this is what one of the victims in the report had to say.
You think everybody knows this about Jean-Luc Brunel?
Oh, yes. A lot of people know that. A lot of people.
They continue to deal with him.
Everyone continues to do it. I don't know why.
And then the report ended with this claim from Ford.
But Eileen Ford has since told us that Brunel denied to her the allegations against him. Despite that, however, she told us that she has notified Brunel that she will not send him any new models unless this matter is all cleared up.
A few years later, in 1991, Eileen's daughter, Katie Ford, who would go on to take over the family business, told reporters that all ties had been severed with Brunel, when 60 Minutes basically exposed him as a sleazeball. However, Katie Ford would go on to be found in Epstein's little black book. Her parents, Eileen and Jerry, were also in there, listed under Katie's name. Katie's husband from 1985 to 2004, Andre Balazs, is also in the Little Black Book. Now, merely appearing in Epstein's Little Black Book isn't necessarily incriminating on its own, but Andre Balazs and Katie Ford's relationships with Epstein and Maxwell are much verifiably deeper than just contact information in the book.
Their association dates back to the 80s, when Epstein, Balazs, and Ford were all on the board of directors for the New York Academy of Art.
Balazs can be seen with Maxwell in very intimate, chummy photographs spanning the 1990s and the 2000s. A 1991 article documents that Ford and Balazs were celebrating Maxwell on her 30th birthday in Aspen. Just over a month after her father's mysterious death, in 1995, Maxwell attended a birthday party for Balazs, where they discussed public places where guests had sex. Balazs was reported to have escorted Maxwell around New York, while Epstein was doing prison time in Florida. In the infamous footage of Prince Andrew seeing a woman out of Epstein's New York townhouse,
That woman is Catherine Keating.
who reportedly had just moved from Australia to New York due to her relationship with Balazs. Keating would go on to interview Maxwell in a video production about her bizarre and suspect ocean charity, the Terramar Project. It's also worth noting that Balazs has been accused of sexually harassing and assaulting multiple women, including Jason Bateman's wife. Maria Farmer, one of the most prominent Epstein victims, and the first one to ever report him to the FBI, briefly yet passionately talked about Katie Ford and Andre Balazs in a conversation with Whitney Webb.
And Epstein called me. He asked me to meet him at his office the next morning. And Katie Ford and Andre Balazs were in there. Katie Ford, if you look back at her, boy, that's a son of a that woman. She's a real son of a and nobody has called her out. No one. That woman is why they were able to pretend that they were hiring these models. They used her as a cover. And her mother was partners with Brunel. And Katie was very connected to him. And Andre Balazs, I want him called out. That mother, let me tell you, sorry, that guy, I hate him.
There is only one other confirmed Epstein survivor that I have found to make a reference to Katie Ford, and that is Lisa Phillips. She has recounted her story on multiple outlets and podcasts.
So I was on a photo shoot in early 2000 at the island of Tortola in the British West Indies, very close to his island. And another young, blonde Polish model said, I have a friend who owns the island. He's been so wonderful to me. He got me my visa. She just said, let's go for the day. I just said, okay, sure, I'll go with you. And so I went over to the island, and later on that evening, a young blonde girl knocked on my door and told myself and the other blonde girl that Jeffrey needed a massage. Actually she said, Jeffrey's ready for his massage. I just was like, what are you talking about? What massage? The other girl said, oh, well, Jeffrey likes, massages. You have to do it. So, I was trapped on the island. I didn't know where to go. I just, followed the girl into his room to do the massage with this other young girl. And I ended up being abused on that island.
After Phillips was victimized by Epstein, he helped her get a job at Ford Models.
They were trying really hard to get me back into the loop, and I kept saying, no, stop, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with this man. And then it was 4 months later, Jeffrey called me, and he was like, I remember on the island that you said your dream was to become a Ford model. He said, I was hanging out with Katie Ford the other day, and I told her about you. And then I was like, what? All of a sudden, I was just like, wow, maybe he is a good guy. He remembered exactly what my big dream was. He was like, she wants to meet you. And I was like, oh, I can just go meet with her? And he was like, yeah. So I'm just thinking, oh, well, maybe feels bad for what he did on the island, And maybe he actually liked me and thought about me in a way. All I cared about was oh my gosh, I want to go meet Katie Ford. This is a huge, big deal. Ford Models was the biggest agency in the early 2000s. When I heard that, I was just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You're amazing. And so it started shifting in my mind. And of course, he's reeling me back in, and he got me. I got all dressed up, and I went right over to the Ford modeling agency, and went to Green Street in the gorgeous, iconic office, and went in there and I met Katie Ford. Had a great conversation with her, and she says, I love Jeffrey. I remember that. I love Jeffrey, everybody used to say. And I was like, yeah, me too. And so I got signed to the Ford model agency.
On a podcast called Strugglecare, Phillips describes a night where Epstein and Ford basically procured her to an A-list celebrity who she is unable to name due to a non-disclosure agreement.
I have an NDA with a celebrity, and Jeffrey had told me to go to a party. And I went to that party, and the owner of Ford Models was there with a bunch of models, and the celebrity was all over me. And that celebrity made a beeline towards me, wouldn't leave me that entire night. And I kept saying, no, get off of me. And then I had talked to the agency owner and some friends, and she was just like, oh yeah, come with me. We're gonna go to a couple parties. And I was like, okay, thinking everything was normal. And I went with her to another party. And then about an hour later, she's like, oh, we're gonna go to another party. And I was like, okay. I was getting tired and stuff, and she takes me to that celebrity's hotel room, and he's got this big suite, and I'm just like, that's the guy that wouldn't leave me alone at the restaurant. I'm like, I don't want to be here. She's like, oh, we're just gonna hang out here. And then I went into the bathroom, and when I came out of the bathroom, the women were gone. The agency owner was gone. And I was just like looking around, and I was like trying to grab my bag and leave, and the celebrity came out. And this is the big celebrity, one of the biggest in the world. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm now trapped here with this guy who I knew what he wanted because he talked about it the whole time at the restaurant. And after that, I was just like, why would she leave me? I don't know what was going on between Jeffrey, that celebrity, and her, but she left me there, knowing I didn't want to be there. And I was assaulted that night.
Now, Phillips is unable to name this man because of the NDA, but she talks about how he was all over her at this celebrity movie premiere party. Getty Images is an online archive of photographs that document elite and celebrity events like this one that I have used in my journalistic research in the past. If you're familiar with my past work, my journalistic methodology and theory of the case revolves around these digital archives that are available at all of our fingertips that have just been accumulating online for decades. There is information out there in the archives that has just been buried by time in a sea of data online, just waiting to be dug up by anyone willing to do the legwork. Lisa Phillips described this person as an A-list celebrity, as opposed to a politician or a billionaire or a prince. So I started searching Getty Images for celebrity names that are associated with Epstein or in his black book or flight logs. Mick Jagger, Alec Baldwin, Chris Tucker, Kevin Spacey. Each one of these names yielded tens of thousands of image results on Getty, but I could save time by sorting these images by the date they were taken and then jumping to the early 2000s when this event of interest took place. But I had no luck, and I was running out of prospective celebrity names with verified association with Epstein. But then I thought about the fact that Jean-Luc Brunel, with his association to Ford models, was right up near the entrance to this specific rabbit hole that I had found myself going down. So I did some research on any verified celebrity acquaintances that Brunel might have had, which yielded some new names to plug into Getty Images, such as Leonardo DiCaprio and Jack Nicholson. DiCaprio didn't end up yielding any results, but then I found this photo of Jack Nicholson. This picture was taken on September 27th, 2002, at a premiere after party at Man Ray, New York City, for the movie About Schmidt, which starred Nicholson in this titular role. If you have any healthy skepticism that the party guest in this picture is Lisa Phillips, it can be confirmed by the distinct beauty mark that she has off to the side of her chin. When I first heard Phillips talking about her encounter with this nameless celebrity at this movie premiere party, I assumed he would have just been one celebrity out of many at this event. But this was the premiere of a Nicholson movie. He was the man of the night. Phillips was invited to the event by Epstein and then brought to Nicholson's room by Katie Ford. Phillips said that she doesn't know the nature of the arrangement between Epstein, Ford, and her attacker, but it seems to me that Phillips was procured in a premeditated, deliberate, coordinated way as Nicholson's twisted gift on his special night.
Just 8 days before Nicholson's premiere party at Man Ray, Naomi Campbell hosted an event at the same venue and was photographed with Ghislaine Maxwell there. Investment partners at Man Ray included Johnny Depp, Sean Penn, and Harvey Weinstein.
After this discovery, I looked into Nicholson's past and found it to already be quite problematic, to the point that I am genuinely surprised that he didn't get swept up in the Me Too movement at its height. In a Guardian article from 2000, he is described as having a long list of legal complaints filed against him, including slamming a prostitute's head on the ground and rupturing another woman's breast implant. There is also a report of Nicholson chasing Bridget Hall, another Ford model, around the pool at the Chateau Marmont, a hotel owned by Andre Balazs. There's also further documentation from a 1997 newspaper of Nicholson going to Brunel's home and buying artwork from him. In 1997, film director Roman Polanski was arrested for drugging and raping a 13-year-old girl, a crime that took place in Jack Nicholson's house. Nicholson's girlfriend at the time, Angelica Huston, says that she saw Polanski and the girl at his house, but thought nothing of it at the time. Polanski pled guilty to the lesser crime of unlawful sex with a minor, but then the day before his sentencing, he fled the country, and he remains a fugitive to this day. At the 2003 Oscars, Polanski infamously won the award for Best Director for The Pianist. Polanski couldn't be in attendance because he had fled the country after pleading guilty to sex crimes with a 13-year-old girl, and still received a standing ovation from many in the audience.
And the Oscar goes to Roman Polanski for The Pianist.
The camera cuts to Nicholson, clapping and celebrating for a man that pled guilty to raping a 13-year-old girl in Nicholson's own home. Nicholson recently turned 88 years old. He has long retired from acting, but he is still celebrated every time he makes a rare public appearance. For instance, he appeared at Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary special in February 2025 and was showered with affection. But it isn't too late for him to answer for all this before he finally kicks the bucket. Of course, Nicholson isn't the only villain in this story, still out there living their best life. In 2007, Katie Ford stepped down as CEO of Ford Models, but still remains on their board of directors. That same year, she was invited to a United Nations conference on human trafficking. After this conference, she apparently rededicated her life to combating human trafficking and is now the CEO of the nonprofit Freedom for All. In numerous interviews, she reiterates the same canned, bizarre sentiment that she, as a woman in her 50s at the time and who had spent her entire career in the modeling industry, had never heard the term human trafficking until this 2007 conference.
The fact that there's any slavery at all surprised me.
Of course. Yes.
I had no idea.
When I started working in this, both I and most people had never heard the term human trafficking. Now most people know about it.
And when you left, was it your idea to start this organization to focus on slavery?
I actually didn't even know about slavery at that point.
How people are trafficked frequently is how we used to scout models. We tell them the job and what you can make and your prospects. Now, we gave what we promised. Traffickers dupe people. But I thought I had an unusual background for this because I'd worked internationally and I'd worked with young, vulnerable women. And I thought I could apply the same skills to ending human trafficking and slavery.
In 2010, 4 years after they divorced, Katie Ford and Andre Balazs hosted a private event with an auction to benefit Free the Slaves on top of the Standard Hotel, which Balazs owns. This event was also attended by Ghislaine Maxwell, who can be seen in the background of this photo of actress Selma Blair. This Free the Slaves event, hosted by Ford and Balazs and attended by Ghislaine Maxwell, was 2 years after Epstein had been convicted of procuring a minor for prostitution. It is at the very least a curious pivot for Katie Ford to now valiantly combat human trafficking. Was this an exercise in reputational management? Or is this an endeavor meant to alleviate some of her guilt for her previous associations with sex traffickers? Or something more sinister? In the case of Jimmy Savile, he was renowned for his extensive charity work, spanning decades at hospitals all over the UK. It wasn't until after he died that it became apparent that this charity work was a ploy to gain access to abused vulnerable populations. Predators gravitate towards roles that grant them access. So this is a call on Katie Ford to explain herself and speak to her past relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. She has never made a public statement about these past relationships. And if she has nothing to hide and is so passionate about combating the evils of human trafficking, then it's something that she should be willing to talk openly about.
Thank you, Jamie. And thank you to the brave insiders that have stepped forward to share their information and their testimonies with us to better understand the Big Club. There's likely never going to be an Epstein client list. The Big Club is, well, bigger than a prostitution ring, bigger than an intelligence agency honeypot. The Big Club is more than just an organization. It's a culture, an elite culture that prides itself on exploitation and inversion that we wish for you, the audience, to understand so you don't fall victim to its trappings. With the recent news of the passing of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, we are humbly reminded of the fact that time is of the essence, and there is no time like the present to have your story heard. We would also like to take the time to extend an invitation to any insiders or other possible victims that wish to come forward with their stories. Reach out to us so we can help you reach out to the world, and so you can get the justice that you deserve. Knowledge is power, is storytelling. Be on the lookout for the first episode of The Big Club. In the meantime, please check out Lisa Phillips' podcast from now on and familiarize yourself with her story and other victims' stories to inform yourself. I would also like to thank you, the viewer, for your time. If you'd like to support us further, please like and share this video or donate at the links below.